Hey everybody! I finally decided I'm going to start video blogging. I've had enough. I don't know about you, but I've been listening and reading all of this crazy news cycles. I've posted about them on Facebook. I've started listening to a lot more prophecy and religious, I don't know, kind of ideology out there on some theology on why people believe things are happening a certain way that they're doing. And I've been called and led for a long time to start doing this, and I've been letting everything get in the way. I've since probably 2 years ago, I've been called to start doing blogging, videos, starting a website. Every time I would start it, I'd think, nope, it's too political, it's too fiery, people aren't going to like it. So then I'd change it and try to soften it. I wasted $300 on a website that my husband still jokes about that we never used because I named it something totally apolitical and silly, and started off on this idea that I was going to do all these political ideology things, and then got scared and turned it into something really lame for research topics, and I never paid the bill and it crashed. So cool, $300 wasted. Then I started to have a baby and I got wrapped up in that. Now I'm done with that and I'm back to life again. But then I was like, no, I still can't focus on doing anything that's that time consuming, because guess what? My house is a mess. Guess what? My kids have issues. Guess what? I'm supposed to help this person or that person, or my time is being elsewhere. And I'm finally realizing that those are just all different types of techniques used by the enemy to continue to suppress Christians and their voices, and to keep them constantly away from focusing on the things that are important in this life, which is leaving legacies to our children. Legacies through family life, legacies through politics, legacies through culture. Everyone that's my age or below, I'm kind of on the cusp between Generation X and Millennial. We're basically a third generation in of kids and individuals who were brought up devoid of a life of the church being our central culture and focusing on the enjoyments of life. Church was replaced by entertainment. First it started in music, then it went into movies, then it branched out onto the internet, yada, yada, yada. It just goes on and on and on. So my point is, we already grew up in an environment where legacy wasn't important. It was chasing after whatever that cool thing was that was happening in pop culture or whatever came across our screens. And now look at us. We're third generation in. Many of us have already created kids and families who are becoming adults themselves, who are either entering college or about to enter college. And if you didn't wake up and realize what was happening and purposely start putting legacy into your family, now they're going off and they're the fourth generation removed without any purpose. And they're just floating out there aimlessly, wandering around trying to figure out what they're supposed to do with life. And do you know what's happening? All of these people who are organized and have a different legacy than what many of us in the Christian faith have know this and have latched on to them and are feeding them all of those things that they've been craving for so long. And it sounds so great and so good to them that they're buying into all of these lies and terrible deceit that is brought on by the enemy, in my belief, which is Satan. And it's just turning the entire American culture up onto its head. And this takes many forms. It's not just in the political arena. It's not just name whatever political party is frustrating you at the moment. Right now, everyone's saying BLM, Antifa. I'm guilty of that too. Before that, it was Occupy and the Occupy movement. Before that, gosh, I don't even know because I wasn't really focusing then, but it was like even in the 90s, I can still remember, heck, I remember going to Washington to fight against George Bush and his invasion in Iraq. The point is that there's always going to be political upheaval because that's what the enemy is using to divide and confuse the next generation of leaders that are coming in. And for too long, Christians have been told, keep your mouth shut. You can't offend people. You're going to get fired. You're not allowed to do this or that. You're not allowed to make somebody feel bad when they come into the church because you're calling out a sin. You're not allowed to talk about politics with your friends because it might offend them when you're having dinner and it might ruin the party. You can't spend time writing a blog because guess what? You have a pile of laundry on your couch that's stained that needs to also be cleaned. You have a mouse trap sitting on your floor because you're trying to catch rats. You need to focus on raising your family. You can't be out prophesying or talking to people or trying to rile them up Look, you have a kid out here in the backyard playing with water all by himself. What happens if he falls in? You could go to jail. These are things that are going through my mind every day. And these are the things that I use as an excuse to prevent me from doing the thing that God has been telling me for the past 2 years to do. And I try to even bring it up even to my husband, and poor guy, he's so confused. He doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I've just stopped talking to him about it, and I just keep all of these thoughts to myself. And I'm sharing them with you today for a couple of reasons. One, I'm tired of holding them in. Two, I think that there is a stirring of the Spirit throughout the nation and the world of other like-minded Christians who have these similar thoughts and are being called to action in different ways, different from me, different from people that you see on TV or the internet or who you talk to in church, because the Bible specifically says that everyone is given gifts. And I really believe that for too long, Christians have been living in a polite society. And now we're on the cusp of losing that polite society to an evil force that has been prowling for centuries in the form of political masquerade. And before that, I mean, all kinds of different shapes. But we're all being called to step up and say, we've had enough, we're tired of it. And you know what? It's scary. People are going to hate you for opening your mouth. You're going to be called all kinds of names. People are going to look at you and walk away or try to hide or pretend like they're talking to someone else because they don't want to be around you, because they don't want to hear you being a pain in the ass. But you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm going to go back to being the pain in the ass. I used to be that kid a long time ago where I always wanted to say an opinion or go out there and try to remind everyone to act some kind of standard that I thought everyone should be doing. I mean, I was a typical teenager, but I was very, I don't know, kind of, I won't say politically active, but I just always wanted to get my opinion out there. I still do, but I just kind of backed off a little bit because I was afraid. I was trying to build, I don't know, relationships with neighbors or trying to be a better parent for the school system and just trying not to make things difficult for people. But you know what? The people who don't make things difficult for people just make room for the other people to come in and be more difficult. So if it's a choice between having the values that I think as a Christian need to be implemented and put out throughout the country and in my neighborhood and in my world, or I have to sit back and let somebody else put their vision of their world into my life and my children's lives, I'm sorry. You know what? I choose to be the bitch. And that's just how God called me. Now, I know we're supposed to be doing things in a Christian attitude of love, or so I'm told. I'm working on that. I'm a sinner. Everyone's a sinner. And that's the other thing. Don't think that you can't be used by God because you are a sinner or because you're going through some crazy crisis in your life right now that if somebody finds out might undermine you and everything you're trying to do. Guess what? I am a terrible sinner. I'm in a fight right now with my husband over money, and I cuss at him all the time. My mom and I butt heads all the time. She tried to live with me, and we couldn't make it work because I'm too stubborn, and she had to move out. Guess what? I hardly see half of my other side of the family because I just get annoyed because I don't know why. They just annoy me, and I annoy them, and we love each other, but it's mutually understood that after so many days of being around each other, we get on each other's nerves. I mean, I am a sinner. I am too opinionated. I sometimes don't have all the facts and rush to judgment. I'm on Facebook all the time posting my opinions, and people either love it or hate it. I yell at my kids when I'm having a bad, rough day. I mean, I'm a sinner. But you know what? I'm not going to let the enemy use that anymore to keep and block me from saying the things that he wants me to say. And I'm just telling you all of this because I think a lot of you are struggling with the same thing. And I think a lot of you are going to have to go through this process yourself and dig down deep and say, I've had enough. I'm living for something greater and bigger than the now. I'm living for a legacy that I want to leave my children. And you know what? I'm not sitting here today to argue about little tiny public policy decisions like should we ban sugar or not ban sugar or silly things like that. I'm talking about the tone and attitude and position of our culture and of our country and of the world and what we put out into the world. Because right now, we are on the verge of losing it all in a very organized fashion by a group of people who are very savvy and who are opportunists. and they were latched on, as I said before, because I'm a Christian, they are being guided by the enemy. And these people aren't working for any special cause. Right now, you think they're working for BLM. That's bullcrap. They're working to gain power, to line their pocketbooks, and to control things, because that's what every human wants to do, is control. And right now, they're doing it through the guise of BLM. And it's unfurling a lot of scars and wounds for a lot of people, both on the left, the right, and the middle. And I've fallen into the trap of it too. I've fallen into getting into fights with people that I've loved, not loved, admired, and not admired. And they've gotten into fights with their people too, because this is just so silly. These opportunists have figured out how to get under our skin and really dig into things that are hot buttons that they know that everyone will have an opinion on and everyone will fight with each other on. You know what? We've got to see past that, call it out for what it is, and start taking back our culture, start taking back who we are as people, start taking back what we want our children and future generations to be taught. Because where we are now is going on 4 generations in of being removed from all of that, and it's looking bad, guys. And so I'm just here to officially put out my first video. And also, I want to say another thing. I'm not letting technology or looking a certain way affect my product. I was sitting there thinking, you know what, I do finally want to make a video. And then I started thinking, I need to go put on makeup. I'm going to have to go buy a microphone. And I said, you know what, forget it. It's just another excuse. Look at me. No makeup. My hair pulled back in a bun. I haven't even brushed it today. You know why? Because I woke up at 7 o'clock and my daughter had to be at school at 7:45. And I had 3 kids to get dressed and thrown in a car and drop her off there. I barely brushed my teeth. I'm not even wearing a bra, just walking around in a long sleeve shirt. Why am I in a long sleeve shirt? Because I didn't do laundry for the last 2 days, because I suck at housework. But guess what? I'm not going to use it as an excuse anymore to prevent myself from getting out there, putting my voice out there, and telling things that I see and that God is putting in my heart to the rest of the world. So this is my first video explaining I'm going to do that. And I'm only telling you all of this negative stuff because I want everyone else who is watching this to dig down deep and to feel the same passion and voice that they know God is calling for them to do, and to finally just put down the excuses and freaking go and do it. Put one foot in front of the other and start doing it. If you get into fights with your family that day, who cares? God's still calling you to go do something. Get up and go do it. If your house is still a mess, you know what? It's still going to be there when you get back finishing whatever God wants you to do. Stop making excuses. Stop being afraid and hiding behind politeness. We are in a war against godly messaging, God and what he wants in the legacy of our children, our country, and our world, and the forces of evil who are opportunists and are masquerading behind all of these political agendas, Hollywood, and everything else. And there are a lot of crazy conspiracy theories. Some of them might have merit, some of them have no merit, and I laugh at some of them and I don't. Up to you how you want to interpret all of that. And maybe I'll talk about some of them going on in the future, and maybe I won't. But that's not my point today. My point is to just have verbal diarrhea, just to say whatever's coming through my mind to get you people up and out of your comfort zones to start fighting for what we need. We have so much that we are supposed to be doing, and I have been ignoring it for 2 years. If I had just started that website 2 years ago and written about what God was putting in my heart, God, imagine what kind of movements we could be seeing from conversations just from one website. Because I'm seeing people put up websites that are completely insane and are getting thousands of followers. So you know what? I'm tired of not believing in God and trusting what he's telling me to do. And I'm tired of making excuses for myself. And I hope that anyone listening is tired of the excuses that they're making for themselves. And I hope that whatever God is calling you to do in this time to gear up and fight in this battle, that you're going to listen and you're going to go out and you're going to march and you're going to do it scared. You're going to do it afraid of feedback. You're going to do it afraid that people are going to come after you and tear you down and tell you you're all these horrible things. But you know what? God tells us to put on our armor and fight. So let's fight. Let's do this. Let's start today. I've been doing it. I haven't been doing it as fully and publicly as I should. And I'm repenting of that now. And I'm asking for everyone's forgiveness because I didn't listen to God. Now I'm going to, because I'm tired of it. I hope you're tired of it too. And I hope that we can just pick up our battle swords and just get out there and take back what the enemy has taken away from everyone. Nobody is happy. Everyone is getting divorces. Everyone's in broken homes. I have more friends and families, myself included, They grew up in broken homes and then in good homes. And you know what? That's very sad. That was sad to me and it was sad to them. And then they grew up promising themselves that they wouldn't have broken homes. And guess what? Some of them succeeded in not having broken homes, but many of them didn't. Nobody wants to live that way. Do you know why we're living that way? Because the previous generation before didn't take the time to care and instill the legacy that they needed to put into us. They failed, and that's on them, and that's for them to have to deal with as a generation when God calls them to judgment. But that's not on us now to have to deal with their judgment. We have to deal with the punishment and the aftermath and the conclusion of that, and the conclusion and consequences where we've grown up in a generation where we were confused, and then we've grown up with and developed another generation behind us who are even more confused. We have to fix it. We don't have the power to fix it ourselves. We have to listen to God. We have to listen to what he's telling us. We have to prophesy and speak power and truth into everyone else. And you know what? Your flesh is going to hate it, and it's going to be scary, and you're just going to have to suck it up and stop making excuses. If God's telling you to go out and start that homeless ministry, go do it. If God's telling you to pick up the vlog, post, and start putting videos out of your opinion on subjects so it can get out there in the ethernet and annoy somebody just to make them think for a little bit, go do it. If God's telling you to go down to the polling booth and you've never voted before in your life and this is the first time you're going to do it, go do it. If God's telling you to call out somebody when you're sitting at dinner on a Sunday after church, which, well, half the freaking country isn't even going to church anymore, but somebody starts saying things that you know are against God's word, call them out on it. I'm tired of this whole, we have to be polite and politically correct in society or we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. We have been bound and chained by that. Jesus never did that. If you read the Bible, Jesus would look directly at people and call out what they were doing as sin and then moving them and telling them to repent and move on, and they would start in a new life cleansed by Jesus and the Spirit of God. They weren't sitting there, he wasn't sitting there embracing their sin and telling them it's going to be okay, or thinking quietly to themselves, I wonder if they know how out of line they are. No, he spoke up, and yeah, he was the Son of God, so maybe he wasn't as nervous about it as you and I might be, but he set the example of what we're supposed to be. He even told the prophets and the apostles as he was leaving, you saw what I did, now go make my church and follow after me, lead by example, do what I showed you to do. And guess what? The early disciples did it, and they did it so much that it shook the entire government that they were living in. When they started, they were living in persecution, and by the end of the early church, the Christianity rose to become the government, which is a whole other host of problems with the church, which I won't even get into because everything has its good and its bad. But the power that happened to make that shift from saying I'm Christian and having to hide in a cave or to suffer death versus several years and hundreds of years later ruling the kingdom, that's powerful stuff. If the early church could do that, we can take it back in a country where that was already established. Stop being pansies. Stop sitting on your ass. Stop whining and moaning and fucking get out and do it. And yes, I cuss. Get over it. I'm married to a sailor. He has a worse mouth than I do. We're Christians. We love God. But damn it, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't have a salty mouth. If I have to cuss at you to get your ass off that couch to go do what God is telling you to do, I'm going to do it. Now, I'm going to pray for you. And that's the other thing. I tell all my friends this too. As a human, I hate people. It's a sin. People annoy me. I don't want to be around them. I'm an introvert. I'd rather tell people my opinions, shut the door, and not talk to them anymore. And God is working on that with me. And that was one of the excuses why I never would want to go out and do what God's calling me to do, because I don't have empathy for people the way I should. And I apologize for that. And if I've ever come across that way to you, I'm sorry. It's how I was built. It was put into me as I was growing up. I don't know why God made me that way, and I'm trying to work on it. But it's part of who I am. I'm blunt. I sometimes put my foot in my mouth a lot when I don't realize it, and I have offended a lot of people. So I'm just putting out there, I'm probably going to offend you too if you keep continuing to watch my vlogs. Now, this is a 20-minute video. I've just rambled and said a lot of bullshit. I don't know if anyone's going to watch it, but God led me to do this, so I'm just going to not even edit it, not review it, and I'm just going to post it up on Facebook or YouTube, or I don't even know. I'm going to have to Google how to post long videos because I'm, almost 40 years old. I don't know how to do this shit anymore. All right. So everyone needs to pray, whether you're Catholic, Orthodox, Christian, Apostolic, you're breathing Holy Spirit fire, or you're sitting down at the Adoration Chapel quietly meditating. I don't care. We're all Christian. We're all under God's blood. We just all are divided ourselves into stupid little ideology camps. Get over it. We're all being called to gather as one and to fight this fire. So let's go. I'm tired of it. Don't make me come to your houses to kick your asses. I'm tired now, and I have to go fold my laundry. Look at this pile. And look, by the way, look at this. Look at the stains on these carpets. I have 3 kids. They just run me ragged. Okay, and I'm like, God, why are you going to make me do this? But here I am doing it. So you guys don't have an excuse, especially all the people who don't have kids and are single. Pull up your big girl and boy panties. Let's go. We need your help because I'm trying to do this with 3 kids. You can do it with no kids, all right? I love you guys. And that was that. No empathy for people in a different situation. Problem happening. Did you see that? Okay, I'm going to try this, send it out, and see what happens. And video blog back if you guys have things you want to say, because this is a conversation. The whole point of this is to get people motivated. It's not just to hear my message, fast forward, and just ignore it. Like, I want you to be stirred. I want to hear your responses back, and let's get this movement going. All right, bye.